every time you peel away at the transphobia, you find misogyny under the layer. And then if you peel away at misogyny, you find homophobia under that layer. I do think that technically speaking, homophobia is rooted in misogyny. Like, I think misogyny is the thing. It's like transphobia, homophobia, misogyny, and then under that is ableism. Because fundamentally, at the end of the day, beliefs that women are inferior kind of fundamentally come back to, oh, well, they're not as strong. Or they'll add other things to it, like, oh, well, they're not as smart and things. But it kind of fundamentally, I think, is an ableism. I think ableism is a fairly essential component to bigotry because most bigotries require a belief that the demographic in question are all, quote, broken and therefore unworthy people. I do think that there's an argument to be made that most bigotries, you could probably whittle it back down to some kind of ableist belief, such as, women are weak and therefore they are inferior, or even the belief that women are stupid and therefore they are inferior is another aspect of ableism. The idea that Black people are just, inherently stronger and stupider and therefore they should be used for child labor. Like, that's an ableist belief at the root of the racism. So much racism, if you look at it, is like fundamentally comes back to these people are stupid or inferior in some other intrinsic manner. Like hatred against gay people because being gay is unnatural and it's defective. Hey, real quick, hit the like button if you're enjoying the content. Hit the subscribe button as well and turn on all notifications. And also take a moment to check out the links in the description for merchandise and Patreon, where you can find exclusive free content. Like, that's a naturalism fallacy, as well as being like ableist in the sense that, normal humans are attracted to people in this way. Transphobia, again, like normal humans don't have this delusion. It's this idea, again, and the delusion thing, it's always this idea that you are mentally deficient. And so, I believe that most bigotries, if you really examine them, fat phobia, again, like, oh, you can't even walk up the stairs, ableist. Oh, you're so unhealthy. Okay, well, why are you moralizing health? Ableism. Yeah, they say trans people are mentally ill, and that's only a reason to hate trans people if you also hate the mentally ill. Yeah, like does your God condemn mentally ill people to hell? That sounds like a great thing for him to do. Ableism is at the root of capitalism as well, because if you are less productive, you are inferior. Right. Like the idea that if you need to contribute some kind of labor or you are not like valuable. Lux, have you read The Terrible We? It's like an intersection analysis that argues we ought to include rather than disavow emotional and cognitive issues when we advocate for trans liberation. I haven't read that, but I completely grok the idea and I basically agree with it. Like, I mean, yeah, you don't want to contribute to stigma if possible. Like when people tell me I'm mentally ill, I'm like, yeah, but that doesn't really have anything to do with me being trans. Like, me having PTSD is kind of a separate problem. So, like, what's wrong with, like, they're always like, go to therapy. And I'm like, I've been in therapy. I'm still trans. Like, so it's important not to distance yourself from it in the way that makes it look like, oh yeah, I agree with you that being trans is bad. Or that being mentally ill is bad, I should say, in this context. Yes, people with mental illness are our comrades. Being sick does not make a person's identity less valid, whether they are cis or trans. Yeah, because that's the thing, is the implication that because you're mentally ill, you don't actually know your own mind and you can't be allowed to access transition. And of course, it's stupid. You are telling me I need to resolve my eating disorder before I can transition. Well, the only reason I have an eating disorder is because it's the only way for me to exert any control over my curves. Oh, you're telling me I need to have my depression resolved. Well, I'm depressed because I can't look at myself in the mirror. Like, I'm like upset. It is putting these barriers in place, implying that, yeah, people don't have the right to autonomy until even more additional gatekeepers sign off. Oh, you have to have a multidisciplinary team of someone who is you have to have your eating disorder resolved. Like, how? How are you going to resolve the eating disorder if the treatment for the eating disorder is ostensibly going to involve making you eat more or less, whatever the case may be? But if you're starving yourself because you don't want to have visible breasts, and then you start to gain weight and recover, then your body is just going to look more female and you're going to get worse and spiral out again, because the problem isn't that you have an eating disorder. Like, the problem is that you're trans. I had to not be depressed and anxious before I could start HRT. It was great. I actually just pretended that I was okay by the end. Right. You're just creating more incentive for people to lie to you. Like, I don't want an official autism diagnosis, even though I'm pretty sure I'm autistic, because I have zero interest in there ever being a question of, do I actually deserve hormones? Or, you know, if I had a kid and there was like custody issues, like, I don't want someone to be able to declare me an unfit parent because I'm autistic, you know, and those are real dangers that autistic people have to deal with. So it is actually it's beneficial to me to avoid diagnosis for that issue in order to avoid having my other types of rights and access curtailed. Because I guess, like, autistic people, it doesn't matter how clearly self-aware and intelligent they are. Apparently, just as a blanket rule, we do not deserve access. How would that make sense with autism discounting trans? Trans and autism are heavily linked. Corpse Candy, you've landed right on it. They want to associate, like, if you're autistic, then, oh, we need to have extra gatekeeping. Oh, you can't really know that you're trans. And if most trans people are autistic, or if there's a high correlation, then that's the best thing for them to target if they want there to be fewer trans people. That's exactly, they're going to go, well, you know, you can't transition, sorry. And then that's going to be most of the autistic people, because apparently a lot of us are, like, most trans people are autistic, or some, like, really, really high correlation. I guess I shouldn't be questioning the stupidity of transphobes. Corpse Candy, it's not the stupidity of transphobes. This is a thing that people miss out on, you know. They want to prevent autistic people from being able to transition because they know there is a high correlation between transness and autism. Their goal is for there to be less trans people. So it's not them being stupid, it's them making a calculated genocidal decision. It's not stupid, it's not hypocritical, it makes perfect sense, because they want to eliminate trans people. Yeah, transphobes are smart, they're just evil. I feel like the ones who are making these talking points are the smart ones and the evil ones, but your average transphobe is a fucking moron. I can't disagree with you on that, even though it's ableist to say it. I think your average transphobe just doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about, and they're very easily duped people. And of course, yeah, the uninformed people are going along with these talking points because they trust these figures of authority, and they don't think that these people are going to be lying to them and coming up with these lies for the calculated purpose of disrupting and overturning our democracy. It's a tough time. Hi, thank you so much to all of my patrons, especially Tiago Nascimento, Mersh Rolvag, Amanda B., Michelle Frateroli, Michelle Winter, Wellington Marcus, Danielle McDonald, DZXN, Suzanne Maynard, Spooky Heather Sylvia, Jamie Jam, Pasnell Infinity, Nova, Elizabeth Bartell, Sojo, Sarah A., Athiet, Kevin Young, Celeste, Desi Quiche, Liam Hodgson, Mr. Atheist, and Ella V. Nobody.